If your school ever takes you somewhere that doesn't feel right, don't go. Fake a fever. Say your stomach hurts. Lock yourself in the bathroom and miss the bus. Because if you don't, you might bring something back with you. I did that. Our class took a trip for hours from home. 43 students went. We loaded the buses with lunch bags, permission slips, earbuds, and too much caffeine. It was supposed to be fun, just another cheesy, underfunded district field trip. But we didn't all come back the same, and no one know. One talks about what happened in that building, not in the group chat, kid, not in the yearbook, not in the hallway whispers between periods. It's like someone erased it from the memory of everyone who wasn't there. I've tried to forget, the rules we broke, door we opened, what we saw inside. But it's still with me, sometimes in the mirror, sometimes in my sleep, and more. When my phone glitches and the screen goes black, I see its face looking back, so I'm telling this now while I still can. If your school ever plans a visit to the old Southridge Facility, don't go, because you might still be there. It was the kind of field trip that sounded cool on paper, something different from the usual museum or planetarium rotation. No one had even heard of the place before Southridge Experimental Research Center, but the permission slips called it a preserved historical site turned educational learning space. Our history teacher, Mr. Haverly, hyped it up like it was the highlight of our junior year. Said it used to be a Cold War-era research facility, and that very smart, very secretive people had lived and worked there until the mid-90s. Nobody in town really remembers when it shut down. He joked. Quit, which probably means it was haunted. We laughed. At the time it felt good to laugh. I packed my favorite snacks, brought noise-canceling earbuds, even wore a hoodie with a hidden pocket so I could sneak in my phone charger. Guess, just the usual stupid teenage prep ritual. It was a 3-hour bus ride into the woods, not suburban woods, not scenic country road woods, deep woods, the kind where the trees lean in like they're trying to smother something. I remember the welcome sign was rusted to the point of invisibility, veins curling through the metal framework. There was no cell service where we were going. That should have been the first sign. The building was bigger than I expected. Old brick, no obvious windows. Cold, strangely cold, and I remember as we lined up to go inside, our driver, a man none of us recognized, never got off the bus. Just stared straight ahead. Mr. Haverly said the place had been shut down for maintenance years ago, but the school district leased it last fall. Somehow, that was supposed to make it okay. I didn't know that by the time we left, someone would be missing, and something wouldn't let go of me. Mrs. Hallberg was the kind of teacher who wore noisy earrings and always carried half a dozen granola bars in her purse, always cheerful, the mom friend of the chaperones. Every kid loved her because she never snitched if you snuck a snack between exhibits. So it didn't register at first when she vanished. One minute she was walking near the back of the line, chatting with a small group of students. Then they took a turn around the corner and she didn't come out the other side. At first, we thought she just ducked into a bathroom. Mr. Haverly brushed it off with a tight smile and said to keep moving. But he looked shaken at the next checkpoint hand. Old exhibit labeled Sublevel Archives. He went pale, placed his hand on the doorknob, then turned and said we'd skip that part of the tour. 3 students started whispering. One said they heard a sound coming from that level like someone calling for help. Another swore they saw Mrs. Hallberg in the window of a 3rd-floor room, one we were specifically told was sealed for safety. Someone joked it was a prank. No one laughed. After lunch, our group size was smaller. Not by much, but definitely smaller. They told us we imagined it. Just shadows, just nerves. But The attendance sheet had a name crossed off in red pen. They never said whose. When we asked if Mrs. Halberg was okay, the other chaperone, a volunteer from the PT, just said she had to leave urgently and that we weren't to discuss it with our parents. That night, even the group chat got quiet. Like everyone was waiting for someone else to say what we were all thinking, that something in the building had taken her. And no one could prove it ever happened. We were supposed to be watching a short documentary in the auditorium, but about 10 minutes in, Josh leaned over and whispered, "Want to explore?" It was me, Josh, Becca, and Ava. We slipped out through a side hallway while the guy dimmed the lights and rolled the tape. The hallway we found wasn't like the others. No tour signs, no safety cones or exit markers, Geege. Just an unlit corridor, walls grayer than the rest of the building as if they'd been scorched or stained. The air got colder the farther we walked, like someone had left a freezer open at the end. Ava stopped in front of a steel door labeled "Authorized Personnel Only Archive 3X, Not on the Map." Josh grinned. We pushed. It shouldn't have opened, but it did. Inside, the lights flickered to life, one by one, without anyone touching a switch. The room smelled like mold and old penny-wet metal and rot. It was not part of the tours. Rows of shelved medical folders, torn notebooks scattered across the floor. A gurney in the center of the room with leather straps, definitely not meant for learning. Becca reached for a yellowed file stamp. Restricted Class C clearance required, but the folder disintegrated in her hands. A string of loose pages fluttered to the floor. On one of them, scrawled in shaky red ink, "We tried, lock them in, don't let them walk." Josh picked up a page and shouted, his finger was bleeding. "I think something bit me," he muttered. "Cut." The cut was jagged and deep, like from a row of tiny teeth. But there was nothing near him. Ava pointed to the wall, lines etched into the paint, possibly from fingernails or claws. There was a security monitor in the corner, static, then just for a moment, it flickered. Room hours. 4 shapes inside, then 5. None of us moved, we just stared at the screen. The 5th figure didn't dot. It turned toward us. Slowly, when we looked around, it wasn't there. But the cabinet in the corner began to shake. We ran. We didn't speak. We never went back to that hallway. But the steel door. It was closed and locked when the janitor passed by 15 minutes later. He said it had been sealed for 15 years. We got back to school the next day like nothing had happened. Same bell schedule, same cold pizza in the cafeteria, same faces pretending everything was fine. But something was different. Josh didn't joke around in class anymore. He just stared at the floor and picked at the bandages on his finger. Like the wound wouldn't close, asterisk. Becca kept checking the windows in every room like she was waiting for something to appear in the reflection. Ava didn't say anything at all that first night back. I tried to record a video message for a friend. When I played it back, my voice was warped slow, static-filled, with someone else whispering underneath. I couldn't make out the words, "Kya," but I swear I heard my name, Kat, and a laugh. Then came the nosebleeds. Mine started during math. Ava had hers during lunch. Josh had one so bad in gym they had to send him home, but the nurse said it was stress, maybe the flu. Becca never had one, but we stopped seeing her altogether after she texted our group chat. "It's in the mirror." That was the last message she ever sent. Her locker was found ripped open later that week. Bent metal. No explanation. More weird things followed. Knocking from the inside, cawing in empty lockers, desk drawers slamming in classrooms after hours. The janitor quit out of nowhere. But before he left, he told our history teacher, Whatever you kids brought back, it wants to stay. I started waking up to the sound of someone breathing next to me. Not loudly, just deep, slow, intentional. Like whoever it was didn't need to sleep. I tried turning over. Every time, nothing was there. But the warmth beside me would linger, for just a second longer than it should have. I've seen videos like this before, heard the Creepypasta stories, read the megathreads. I always thought they were fake. A game, something made up for clicks, until it became my life. And now I'm the one writing this down, hoping someone else has heard the breathing too. Weeks later, I couldn't shake it. The dreams, the mirror reflections, the static that wouldn't leave the corners of my vision, it all kept circling back to suck. Every part of me screamed to forget, but a darker, quieter part told me to dig. I listened. Our school library had old yearbooks and newspaper archives on microfilm. It took me 3 afternoons to find anything. Southridge Experimental Research Center hadn't always been an educational site. It was originally a private government contractor testing behavioral analysis, sound mapping, neurological pattern disruption. The public reason for its closure came mold contamination and toxic materials. A nice, tidy explanation. But I found something else, scraps of an article that had clearly been cut out of copies in most archives. The date was 1997. It mentioned a missing child and a cancelled field trip. Several students had started exhibiting uncontrollable symptoms of derealization and expressive disassociation. The school district denied involvement. No follow-ups were ever printed. One quote stuck with me, buried in a teacher's resignation letter posted anonymously to an old forum. Audio hallucinations began as soon as we entered Research South Wing. That door was supposed to be welded shut. That was the hallway where we found that room. But I even found an old staff bist with our missing chaperone's name on it, Mrs. Halberg, except there was no employment record past 1997, no W-2 forms, no forwarding address. Her personnel file was sealed for internal review, which means she never left, or she never existed. Not fully now. Some schools consider Southridge a funding opportunity again. They're turning it into a history rotation. I think field trips are still happening there, just not for long. I still see things. Sometimes it's just shadows in the corners of my room. Sometimes it's reflections that take too long to catch up. I sleep with the lights on now, and I haven't walked past a mirror in weeks without holding my breath. So if your school ever plans a trip to Southridge, don't go. Don't ask questions. Don't go looking for answers. But if you already have, please comment. Please tell me I'm not the only one. They said we imagined it. But last week, I saw her standing at the school gates, smiling, still wearing her ID badge.